Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of the SRS Expert Series. Today I'm joined by Gian De Belder, Technical Director, R&D Packaging Sustainability at Procter & Gamble, and Larry Logan, Chief Evangelist at Digimarc. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Great to be here.
So my first question, Gian, is to you. Why have you decided to collaborate with Digimarc on a topic like plastic recycling?
Right. So digital watermarks, such as the one offered by Digimarc, allows to make objects such as packaging intelligent. We then can use that intelligence across the full life cycle of the packaging journey, what we call from the birth to the rebirth, right? Including the very important sorting and recycling step. So basically, in the Holy Grail 1.0 project, which we have been running under the New Plastics Economy from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we had a look into different technologies, and digital watermark was definitely part of it. And now we're moving it basically to the second phase called Holy Grail 2.0, which is facilitated by AIM, the European Brands Association. And the objective now in Holy Grail 2.0 is really to prove the viability of digital watermark technology for accurate sorting and the business case at scale.
Okay, cool, thank you. So Larry, my next question. So working on the cross-value chain initiative, Holy Grail 2.0, what exactly is the ambition from your side?
Well, certainly in 1.0, Holy Grail 1.0, as Ian said, it was really to prove the feasibility. And we did that in 2 widely attended demonstrations. And now under AIM, which is a much larger industry-run consortium, it's the opportunity to really scale up to industrial pilots. As Ian said, we'll be looking at the viability of using Digimarc barcode, digital watermarks for more accurate sorting and higher output. But I think the key thing also to stress is this is very much needed today. When you start to think about the regulatory environment for greater use of PCR content, when you think about the public pledges through Ellen MacArthur Foundation and New Plastics Economy, when you think about the extended producer responsibility fees, which can be increasing, when you think of plastic taxes, and when you think also of consumer sentiment over there. So certainly we're very excited to participate at this time. And the other interesting thing about timing has to do with the technology itself. It's often been said that you cannot get there from here in terms of today's technology being able to provide the increased sortation accuracy to be able to produce greater quality and quantity recyclate to meet the challenges that are expected over the next couple of years.
Thank you. So Gian, I mean, you mentioned Ellen MacArthur Foundation a little earlier, and Larry just mentioned them too. And I know that you were involved in helping to kick off the group of companies to pioneer Holy Grail 1.0 in Europe under Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So what have you learned from that process? And I guess how exactly is Holy Grail 2.0 different from 1.0?
Yep. No, thanks for the question. So indeed, a bit of history. I've been pitching the idea of using intelligent packaging back in, I would say, end of 2015, early 2016, in one of the first session from the New Plastics Economy campaigns. And that idea actually then turned into what we call a pioneer project, which is all about establishment of collaborative project. At that moment in time, we were 30 partners, already great value chain representation in those collaboration efforts. One of the key questions at that moment in time was we saw a big rise in different technologies for intelligent packaging, specifically in the field of traces and markers, which are basically fluorescent items you would put into a package, either the bottle itself or a label, whatever it is. But there were multiple efforts going on in that field. On the other hand, digital watermark technology was definitely new, specifically for the recycling industry. So back in 2016, nobody ever had heard about digital watermarks for sorting. So that's definitely something I brought to the table. We looked into the different technologies, and at the end of the New Plastics Economy, there was a clear conclusion that there is much more benefit in using digital watermarks over any kind of tracer system. So I think that's really that was the outcome of that study. We then indeed have been running some proof of concept trials that Larry was already referring to, right? So we have been putting the technology in different types of packaging, both in the print and in the molded samples. And we have been demonstrating it during a couple of open houses at a machine vendor called Tomra. So that was still in a kind of an R&D environment where we have showcasing to the public that we indeed can easily sort out food versus non-food items. Very difficult to recycle packaging that Larry was already referring to. So think about multi-layers and others. But there is definitely also much more possibilities, such as developing more specific new grades, such as cosmetic grades, detergent grades, whatsoever. Right. So there's quite a lot of different possibilities, I would say, with this new technology that we now further will investigate in Holy Grail 2.0. And the big difference, obviously, with 1.0 is that our focus currently is only on digital watermark technology. Right. So we left behind the path of traces markers. It's purely only digital watermarks. And as Larry was saying, now we are preparing for some more semi-industrial testing. And once that's done, then obviously we would like to test this technology in a real industrial environment in one or a couple of national test markets here in Europe.
So yeah, it sounds like you guys have done quite a bit of work in that space. But Larry, I know Gian there, he mentioned tracers and digital watermarks. But can you maybe provide a bit more detail on exactly what they are and how they work?
Sure. Well, I'll just take tracers, initially. It's the idea of taking a chemical that applied to a shrink sleeve, something in printing, and possibly in plastics that under a UV light, there will be an excitation, of the chemical, such that it sort of glows, and it glows at a certain frequency that in essence would tell the sorting equipment what are the characteristics. So it might be PET, it might be polypropylene. And there's a very limited range of chemicals to utilize, and also great concerns about those chemicals and being used for contamination and food. And I think the feeling at the end of the day was simply that sort of solved one rather narrow aspect, and even then was rather limited in its capabilities to really utilize intelligence and all these attributes about the package, versus what we're really delivering as a platform that has applications from original manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, track and trace, anti-counterfeit, retail store operations, consumer engagement, and at the very end, recycling. So it's kind of from birth to rebirth. So I think that was the choice for Holy Grail 1.0, was just simply the overall capabilities, a single solution versus a platform that would benefit the industry and a brand in many ways. And from there, I'll just switch. Many people often ask, so what's a Digimarc barcode? It's an extremely advanced form of what generically is called digital watermarking. But break it down somewhat simply, it's the idea that actually there's two components. And one component includes data, and that would be the product ID, some GS1 attributes, internal tracking codes, just structured data. And we attach that, in essence, combine it with a synchronization signal. That lets us know the orientation of the viewing device. So how far away is the camera, rotation, skew. We bring those two components together to create what we call a signal tile. Now, that signal tile is what's replicated throughout the package, back and forth, in the case of print or in the case of plastics. In the case of print, it's done using common Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator tools that brand designers can utilize. And it's basically just changing the pixels at a very low level and color contrast, and that creates the signal. There's no human discernible structure like a EAN code or a UPC code. So it's just simply blended into the design. A unique attribute, and this is very important for recycling, is that even though it's the size of a postage stamp, we don't even require a single tile to be able to do a detection. If something's crushed, we can take a portion of a tile in one area, a portion of a tile in another, combine those and to make a single code. We do it in plastics simply by utilizing the mold to create a decorative pattern embellishment, which again to the consumer just feels as though it's this sort of nice fine texture, but there's no intelligence or design that's that's built into it. And then he had mentioned some of the other attributes. I mean, some of the other things would be for closed loop applications. We're getting interesting requests from manufacturers that recycling is important, but they also have other operations whereby creating an intelligent package that actually can get efficiencies in a host of other different projects. Yeah, and initiatives, corporate initiatives. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So Gian, coming back to you, P&G is obviously a member of a number of the CGF coalitions of action, including the one on plastic waste and also the Product Data Coalition. So how important do you see these types of collaborations?
Yeah, I think the need for these public-private partnerships and coalition is greater than ever, right? So I think we need to bring together all of the problem solvers into these type of groups and trying to solve one of the biggest global problems collectively, right? So we definitely are encouraging and welcoming collaborations across the full value chain, and I will talk a little bit about some other projects as well. But I think it's important that, I mean, these are huge problems and no single company can do it on its own, no matter how big you are, right? And I think that's definitely an important item. And you see quite a lot of these cross value chain collaborations coming everywhere, right? I mean, 10 years ago, there were not so many. If you look now, you really need to be very, very selective, right? So, I mean, there's quite a few of them as we speak. Now, if we look again to our sustainability program for packaging, our packaging commitments is really focusing on ensuring that all of our packaging is either recyclable or reusable. We want to reduce the use of our virgin petroleum-based plastics in packaging, and obviously we're working on solutions so no P&G package finds its way into the ocean, right? Last year we have been reporting in our global portfolio that we have something like 88% of recyclable packaging. We obviously want to increase that to the 100% I just was quoting, but we also are aware that obviously we can't make progress on our own, right? So we really are keen to have different partnerships across the full globe. An example is, for example, the UK, where we recently became member of the OPRL, the On-Pack Recycling label. And it's really a great tool to enable or inspire more people to do the right thing, right? The label tells you basically how to sort effectively your packaging at the end of the life, right? So that's one example. Another example is if there is no curbside or store take back programs, we have cases such as Gillette and Flash in the UK, where we are partnering with TerraCycle that then ensure that our products are collected and effectively recycled, right? Now, obviously, with Holy Grail, that's really the next big thing. Again, this is really bringing industry together, move it into the next step, and really bringing complete new innovative technology in the field of sorting and recycling in order to be more effective, right?
Okay, thank you. So Larry, Digimarc is also a CGF member, of course. So what's your expectation of our industry? What do you want to see retailers and consumer brands doing more of?
Great. Well, yeah, thank you, Lee. And like so many members, certainly we were disappointed. My wife and I were disappointed not to be able to join, in London this year, and look forward to upcoming events. And we've appreciated, I think, the welcoming, and the outreach from CGF, and eager to certainly to share our expertise in any way that's beneficial. So our thanks to the organization. I think one of the key things with COVID-19 is really brought in sharp focus and show how our health depends on the health of the planet and vice versa. Most of us are spending our times in home now, and this is really a dramatic shift in when you start to think about consumption. So where many things, certainly in supply chain, would happen to be taken care of by industry, at our offices or our places of work or manufacturing. That's all coming into the home now. And so consumers are really starting to think about, sort of the hows and whys of how they consume and how they dispose uh, of the materials. And certainly, I think a consciousness around recycling. Certainly, we've had some number of years, the consciousness around carbon, CO2 and its effects. And so I think all that's coming together where people are really looking to CGF members for guidance and solutions. And one of them, well, Ian's on. I mean, you've probably, many people have seen the sort of the P&G Sustainability at Home, uh, initiative, where external experts, are able to give tips and tricks. Uh, how to use less energy, less water, create less waste at home, and then how that'll have a positive impact upon the planet. So I think in the same way as consumer brands do that kind of outreach and that kind of education, I think they're doing a great service, certainly for their customers and also for their shareholders and certainly for their brands.
Okay, thank you. So if I can just change the pace a little bit to Gian, P&G is obviously an exclusive partner of the Sustainable Retail Summit this year. So if you could, can you tell me what attracted P&G to this event?
Sure, thanks for the question. So indeed, if I look to the team, right? So purpose and a shared road to recovery, building resilience through forward-thinking leadership. There's definitely a big emphasis here on partnerships. So for us, it really seemed the perfect opportunity to get engaged and to present several of our case studies at the summit, right? Sustainability is very high on P&G's agenda. I think we all agree that waste, and specifically plastic waste, doesn't belong in the environment, right? And it's obviously a growing, an ever increasing problem, especially now with, as already mentioned by Larry, right? The COVID crisis. The amount of single-use plastics is increasing for hygienic reasons, right? But it's something that we need to tackle, and obviously consumers are aware, and think it's consumers' expectations that the industry groups together and finds solutions to these type of very complex global challenges. So we believe that indeed the summit is really a fantastic way of bringing together those key industry players and stakeholders, to enable and to question the challenges altogether, and trying to identify solutions to those challenges.
Okay, great, thank you. So my last question, and I'll come to Larry first. If I could get one key takeaway from you, what knowledge would you like delegates to walk away from the Sustainable Retail Summit with?
I think the idea that there are compelling technologies out there, and we always appreciate with new technology that there's presumptions of risk, and in certain times and economic times, companies are cautious. In our own particular case, we've been around for 25 years. We were thrilled when Ian a few years ago could make the leap and see how to use what have been longstanding practices in print and our technology, how to leap that into plastics and get that going. I think the other key thing would be time. And that is, it's been great with all the pledges. And by the year 2025, by the year 2030, when we're in kind of quiet conversations, in the back room with brands, there's also a great deal of fear there in terms of how are you going to get there. And so I think the idea that, certainly through AIM and other initiatives, that technology does take some time, and especially at the scale we're talking about. We're really talking about potentially a global, really solution to the hard challenges of recycling. But that does take quite an effort, does take some time. So the key is really to get going and get going fast and hard by taking what are really in their individual places proven technologies, but bringing them together in kind of this new configuration to address the challenges with plastics and virtually all waste. And then I'll turn to Ian after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, I've been working this one for quite some time. It's not an easy one, right? Because you really want to have the full value chain behind you. The difficulty also lies a little bit that you need all of these partners to do something different, and some of them will need to invest as well. And then the revenues are also spread within that value chain, right? So it's not an easy one, right? But I'm pretty sure that, and I'm convinced that Holy Grail 2.0 can make a difference out there. And it has tremendous potential to bring us much faster into a circular economy. It's also one of the reasons why we want to drive this project first out of Europe to scale it up. Simply because, yes, I mean, there obviously are very high ambition targets on circular economies here in Europe or within certain member states. But then obviously whenever we have proven it at industrial scales, then the technology can travel the globe.
Okay, thank you. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you on this very important topic. And it's, of course, great to see collaboration at work. So thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.